Hello. Today I'm going to be doing an update to the previous combat testing video that I did. This was the results of the previous combat testing. As you can see, 10 withs took insanely high manpower losses compared to every other division. Every other division is kind of within a margin of error, and people pointed this out and suggested I do the testing with the invasion of the USSR. And I dreaded that idea, but eventually I relented and did it, and I have the results. But first, let's show you a little bit of the setup. At the end of the video, I will show you one full test using 8 and 2s with the setup for where the air is and the doctrine. But first, I'm just going to explain the basic division template we're using and a little quirk I found with the combat log. So this is the end result of the 15 and 4s test. The Soviet Union capitulated on October 3rd, 1941. The two tests that were run with this division used engineer companies, support artillery, support anti-air, support anti-tank, and then I was swapping support rocket artillery and signal companies. If you can guarantee total air supremacy, swap out AA for signal companies and run both of them. Results were determined by coming into the combat log and finding where increasing the number of months did not increase any of the stats and there was no losses from training. One problem is these combat loss numbers are completely nonsense. When you go into the detailed list, at the top, we can see our artillery. We can also see the Soviet Union's artillery losses. This also goes for infantry equipment. Here I'm showing losses of Italian and Romanian infantry equipment as well as a bunch of Russian equipment. So these losses had to be taken out. Anything that's showing zero attrition, zero recovery, was never in any of my divisions. The things that are showing attrition and recovery, like this Italian rifle, despite the fact that I was never lend-leased any of them, they are in the divisions. If we come into our stockpile, we're showing one Italian rifle in our division, but it's showing 431 minus 192, so a little over 200 were recovered net of the attrition and combat losses. So where are they? Well, if we come to our Army Logistics tab, and we look through all the infantry equipment used in our army, well, they're right here. Because of this, the attrition and recovery from these need to be included. If I took 180 attrition on the Italian rifles, that is 180 attrition that would have been attributed to my rifles had the Italian rifles not been in my divisions. Recovery-wise, this is a bug. I am recovering my allies' equipment for no reason. When it came to the initial invasion through Bessarabia, there was no way of preventing my allies from getting involved until after I'd gotten to this line, and I could ask for this territory from Romania. Once this territory became mine, the allies would leave the front. Anyways, let's move on to the results. So here at the top, we have three combined charts. The one on the left is using rocket artillery as the fifth support company. In the middle, this is using signal companies as the fifth support company. And on the right is the best results. If we look at just the total losses, you can see most divisions when using rocket artillery take pretty similar losses. 10 withs, despite their very low HP, do not take substantially more losses than 7 and 2s, 9 and 1s, and 8 and 2s. Interestingly enough, once you go over this 22 combat width, 24 with 27 width, and 42 width also take approximately the same amount of losses. These numbers for 9 and 2s and 15 and 4s are actually so low I ran the test results twice and used the worst of the two numbers. Even then, the numbers only really got worse because the attrition values were slightly higher. This data all comes from these charts at the top here. We have combat losses net of recovery, which is blue down here. We have total losses not including training. All divisions were trained to level 3, but because of the save point I was using in a save point in October of 1940, some divisions were trained up as a different division and then swapped, and because of them already being trained, they didn't lose very much experience, and therefore they only need to be trained for a few days to get back to full level 3, which renders the results from that not particularly useful. We have manpower losses here using rocket artillery and signal companies, and if we scroll down, there is a chart for this. The smaller divisions, excluding 15 widths, all lose about the same amount, but then 24, 27, 42 just lose way less. So they are losing less IC using rocket artillery, and 24 width and 27 width lose even less IC using signal companies, and they're also not taking manpower losses. The one problem with these divisions that I've shown in the past, they cannot beat 10 widths. 10 widths will roll these divisions over and not even break a sweat. That's not a concern though when you're in single player. But for multiplayer, these divisions are not the meta. 10 widths are still the meta. 15 widths are very much not the meta. It's 10 widths. because their losses are not substantially higher than most of these other divisions, but they're winning way harder. The most interesting result here is these 15 widths are garbage. They just take so many losses, which is really interesting because they are the second most expensive division per combat width. You'd expect them to perform pretty well. They take so many losses. Now, these 15 widths actually do have very good combat power, but so do 10 widths, and 10 widths take significantly less losses, so there's no point in using 15 widths unless 10 widths are banned in the multiplayer game you're playing. But you shouldn't be using infantry in multiplayer anyways. Tanks can beat any infantry division if you build a good enough tank division. We also have a days to capitulate tracker here. Kind of represents just how quickly you win. And if you scroll down, you're really seeing 10 widths just run over the AI. 9 and 2s have a similar result. 42 widths are your next best. And then you're kind of getting into this clump where it's kind of the same, with 8 and 2s being surprisingly slow. 8 and 2s were so slow with rocket artillery, I just went back and checked the save, and that number is right. When we come over to the whole bunch of raw data section and we come down to 8 and 2s, I did get the start date and the capitulation date right. I didn't mistype it or something. So that is quite a long time compared to everyone else. At that point, you're almost running into winter. So this is the combined losses chart using the best results. And when we look at this, we really see that 42 widths with rocket artillery really do outperform most other divisions. 10 widths take nearly as many combat losses as 42 widths do overall. To determine which one was better when the total losses were approximately same, the one with the lesser amount of combat losses was taken. If you're going to micro, you are likely to eliminate a large portion of the attritional losses, but the combat losses are still going to happen for the most part. I'd like to reiterate, 42 widths though do struggle. When it came to the initial push, they really struggled to cross this river here. Unlike 10 widths and some of the other divisions like 7 and 2s and 9 and 1s, 15 and 4s, 42 widths really struggled with this river crossing. Anyways, I hope you guys found this quite insightful. 10 widths, despite their low HP, do not suffer insane levels of IC losses compared to most other division types other than 42 widths, and given their combat power, they are therefore quite viable in single player. In multiplayer, there is not a division you can create that will beat a 30 width tank division that is well built, features a mixture of soft attack and hard attack. It's just not possible. 10 width infantry cannot hold a 30 width tank division. A 20 width division with 9 infantry and 2 anti-tank, which is supposed to be the fabled division that can stop Germany's push into France, it will lose to a 30 width tank division, even when stacking an entrenchment. But when it comes to single player, you don't want to do all the tank micro, or maybe you're playing a smaller nation that doesn't have, then here are the divisions you should probably be using, except for 15 widths. Don't use 15 widths. 15 widths are garbage. They just take so many more losses than everyone else, both in combat and overall. The next part of this video is just going to show the setup, like I mentioned, for the 8 and 2s. All of the divisions followed the same setup. The exception was 42 widths. 42 widths only had one field marshal rather than two, and tried to declare war on May 15th, 1941. Not too early, but early enough that you should be able to avoid the entirety of winter, which I found to be true. So this is the basic setup I've been doing for every one of these tests. I've been going superior firepower, right, right. I've been getting down to about here pre-war and getting advanced fire bases at some point during the war. Air doctrine wise, I have fully maxed this out and I'm sitting at 500 air experience. Navy wise, I have done nothing. Officer Corps, I have division recovery rate, infantry leader, division attrition, ground attack, because we don't actually have a doctrine guy that gives us a reduction to land doctrines that aren't mobile warfare. And we also have Halder for the plus 10% division attack and Goring for the plus 10% superiority. Air Force wise, we have 2,000 fighters and 1,000 casts in the south and the center, and 1,500 in the north. Division wise, if you'd like to see all the divisions, I've left a link in the description. Right now I'm doing the signal company tests for 8 and 2s. The first 4 support companies have always been the same, and I've been swapping signal companies for rocket artillery. I have not gone for flame tanks. I've done no tank research whatsoever, and if you actually look at Russia, a good portion of it is actually planes. And if you look at the bonuses for flame tanks, you do get a nice little river attack and a 5% in hills and a nice 15% in forests, but you get nothing in plains. If I'm swapping this out, it's far more beneficial to swap it out for a support rocket artillery than a light flame tank. If we pull up our calculator here and we do 264 divided by 232, we'll show that's a 13.4% increase. The best you're going to get from flame tanks is a 15% bonus in force, even when you're accounting for the fact that there are a good amount of force tiles in Russia. 15 versus 13.7 is not worthwhile when that 13.7 applies everywhere. That 15 for force only applies in force. Most of those bonuses are less than the bonus from just applying a support rocket artillery, so it does not make sense to add a light flame tank. It does add a little bit of breakthrough depending on the design of the tank you're using, but it also adds fuel cost to your divisions. Research-wise, I've done up to 1940 tech. I've not bothered trying to rush the Infantry Equipment 3 on any of these because at best I was going to get it halfway through Barb, which is just not worthwhile. You're not going to be able to make enough of these to actually have it matter. 1939 engineer companies and signal companies, engineer company 3s, 200 days. In 200 days, I'm going to have capitulated the Soviet Union. So maybe if I'd started it last year, it might be worthwhile. Artillery-wise, we've got 1941 tech across the board. Otherwise, I have been declaring war on May 15th every single time I can. Let's also look at the logistics. Logistics-wise, I built 2 supply hubs here, and I've built level 5 railways all the way here. For the most part, not necessary, other than in the south here, where the AI just tends to stack all of its divisions. If I turn on they just have so many divisions stacked down here. I'm going to call in Romania and Hungary just to activate their part of the front lines, but I'm going to be taking their land from them. Oh, also, I have done a single collaboration government on the Soviet Union. Just a single one. That's all you need. This means that they will capitulate when you get to approximately the A to A line. Micro-wise, I have not been microing basically anything other than the fact that the front line breaks around Crimea. Sometimes you get lucky and you get a massive encirclement here. Now that we control these provinces, we will be taking the entirety of the front line. By doing this, the AI will now leave. We'll also turn off supply for them. They don't try and help. And we might get a nice encirclement in the center here. Okay, we're starting to get to the point where we need to move up the CAS. Move up half the CAS. And half the fighters. And because we have nothing better to do, we'll just build a couple. Why are they not taking Kiev? There you go. It looks like we got some of the encirclement in the center at least. Okay, we're still going to turn off AI supply. And I'm going to be upgrading these railways to level 2 at the very least. I'm going to take these 4 divisions and I'm going to march them down to Sevastopol. Just because the AI will not take this if you don't do that. Oh, Sam's up here. We're going to... Oh, they're passing to that side? Okay, you guys come this way. Usually they don't do that at all. That's why I microed that. Oh, I believe that's 13 divisions before some of them died. There's absolutely 0 supply down here. Oh, I forgot to show field marshals. I'm using Eric von Manstein, who's level 5 and he has Logistics Wizard, and Albert Kesselring, also level 5, also has a Logistics Wizard. This is why I don't need logistics companies. Logistics companies for level 1 only gives minus, for level 2 only gives minus 20%. So I'm getting most of the benefit without having to produce anything and without giving up anything. Oh, we have run out of supply. They are really stacking Sevastopol here. Usually they don't care that much about it. I might need to do something about that. Can air power take this? No, it cannot. Okay, I'm gonna have to retreat back to supply and then try to do this again. This is the first time I've actually failed this. They usually have like half as many troops here. Okay, let's go get supply. Really? Come on. Why are you not? Why are you getting 1% like per day? It's crazy. We got some supply list. Okay, I forgot to move these guys up because Sebastopol didn't work for once. We'll move you guys here, half and half. We'll move you guys here, half and half. And then we'll move you guys up here. That should have been 1,000. And you guys up here, that would be 1,000. And then after you guys come here, and I don't have your port. I don't have your. You're kidding. What? Why is the AI acting so much different this time? I've never. What the hell? The AI is throwing so much into surviving here. They've never had half as many troops in Sebastopol. Like seriously, you record once and they just completely throw away their entire behavior. Everything they do just changes because you start recording. Sure, we'll invest in you, Turkey. Doesn't really matter anyways. There we go. I can't believe I nearly lost those divisions. Okay, you guys can get moved up now. Literally defending Sevastopol with more ferocity than Moscow. Okay, and we've gotten our next doctrine now. Not that it matters that much at this point. Okay, we've started getting infantry experts. You guys are the Orange Army, so let's sign you guys back on. No, we do not want to form Czechoslovakia. Italy might be planning a naval invasion right now. Take the supply hub, it's not a hard concept. This is really the only microing I've been doing. It's just yelling at the AI, hey, take the damn supply hub. You're standing next to it, there's one division on it. Take it. Like here. Just take the supply hub. It's very important. Wow, we actually managed to finish our doctrine this time. It's the only time I've actually finished the doctrine. That's how inefficient this has been going. But we are at 98% of the way. Baku should be 100. Yeah, that's 100. So we're going to record losses now. 335.8 thousand, which is better. For 8 and 2s with rocket artillery, they suffered 431. I'm going to take all states, except for these ones. We will give those ones to Romania. Why? Because I think it looks nice. Oh, and then Japan immediately declares war on the Dutch East, on the German East Indies. Now, one bug we're going to run into is that number is wrong. As I just showed, it's 335. And that's not the only thing that's wrong. I'm throwing Soviet losses in here. So I've been having to go through here and manually take out all of the Soviet losses. Anything that doesn't have attrition or recovery is not my equipment. It is enemy equipment. And you know how I know? BT-7s? I don't have light tanks. I haven't produced a single one all game. Anyways, that's what I've been doing for every single test. Very little micro, as little as I can get away with, other than with Crimea. That was the most difficult Crimea I've dealt with so far. Anyways, I'm going to record these results. I still have, I think, another 2 or 3 tests to do. Let me check. I still have another 3 tests to do. Oh, also, focus order. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. I hope this brings some definitive answer to what the infantry combat meta is. Smaller is better if you can sustain the losses, but the losses really pile up. The most surprising thing I found was the 6 and 1s taking more losses over time than the 10 infantry, than the 10 wits. That's what I found the most surprising. And when it came to the full invasion of the Soviet Union using rocket artillery, they weren't that much worse than 7 and 2s, 8 and 2s, or 9 and 1s. Anyways, thank you for watching this video, and I will see you later, probably with a guide for Japan on how to conquer the US by 1937. By the end of 1937, I should say.